His work. Mr. Mbacke, you have the floor.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
والصلاة والسلام على الهادي الأمين سيدنا مولانا محمد المكين وعلى آله وصحبه ذوي الرضوان والتمكين. Thank you very much, Mr. Issa Gay, and thanks, Dr. Shah Gay, for this brilliant expose. And thanks also to Sidi and all the people who put that together. And also, bring my salutation to Shah Muhammad al-Muntaqa and my prayers for him, that Allah allows him to achieve his mission, and also to Sering Mamor, who is presiding over this event for the past years. Just to tell you a little bit about my background in 30 seconds. For my studies, I had a master's degree in mathematics in France in 1992, and American European management degree in Lyon in France also in 1993. I then went to the United States and had an MBA at Old Dominion University in Virginia in 1995. Also, I had a degree in Islamic economics and finance from Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance. This is in 2011. After I finished my studies in the US, I worked a few years for Saks Fifth Avenue, about 4 years as a buyer, and then landed up in Citibank as a deputy director. And quickly, after in Citibank, I discovered Islamic finance and founded the African Institute of Islamic Finance, which I'm the chairman and managing director today. Just to jump quickly in the subject, because I think we have about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, if I'm not wrong, Sidi. So I'm just going to put some slides. So hold on 1 second. So I don't know if you can see my slides.
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, so I'm just following on Dr. Shahgeh's presentation regarding the failure of conventional economics systems and models, and the lack of ethics in dealings and transactions, leading to the financial crisis, back-to-back 2008 financial crisis, and now with the COVID-19, a lot of mishaps. And also his wish that maybe religion is a savior to bring an Islam and an economic model where ethics are present. So here I will present Muridonomics, Shah Ahmad Bamba's approach of Islamic economics and finance. I think a lot of literature has been made on Murid, the success of Murids for half a century or close to a century, but with different approach, with a sociological approach, anthropological approach, political approach, economic approach. Now, the originality of the presentation I'm going to make is the approach here will be from Islamic economics and finance, and you will see why we think it fits more than the others. So I call that Muridonomics, which is derived from Murid economics, which I had the opportunity to present the first time in Bamba Day 2017, which is actually a book I'm writing right now with the International University, which is expected to be published, inshallah, in May or June 2021. So I call that Muridonomics, the doctrine of economics taught and practiced by Shah Ahmad Bamba in the Islamic Murid Brotherhood he founded. By the way, earlier discussions show that the brotherhood is not a closed brotherhood. Actually, Shah Ahmad Bamba he calls himself Khadim Rasul, the servant of the prophets. I quote here Michel Kimball's book on Shah Ahmad Bamba, Peacemaker of Our Time, presented at Islamic University of Malaysia. But the Sheikh calls himself a mujaddid that initiated an ideal Islamic society where his disciples should be good Muslims who would aspire to be like the Sahabas of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So this is very important here to make the distinction that this is not the close brotherhood, but a murid actually is a Muslim that is striving to mirror the behaviors of the Sahabas. So basically, he's a mujaddid who is trying to implement a perfect Islamic society. Now, the murid success stories in the economy have been, since the beginning of the century, has been the object of extensive scholarly studies for almost a century. I mean, there's a lot of books about the cash crop peanuts economy in Senegal, which was dominated by the Murids, the city-dwelling traders across the world, and nowadays in the commerce and industrial manufacturing sectors, and even in new technologies. I can quote here Donald Cruz O'Brien, who wrote a lot about the Murids, Jean Copin, who wrote the Les Marabouts de la Rachid, who was a well-known fellow for Dr. Chargay. Abdoulaye Wade, who wrote about the economic doctrine of the Murids, Philippe Coty, Gerard Selman, Cheikh Anta Babou, and tremendous PhD studies in Western universities across the world. I remember when I was a student in France, I read a lot of master's thesis about the Murids, in economy. But the bottom line here is almost all scholars agree on the above average success of the Murids in economy. And they agree also that it is linked to the sanctifying virtue of work in Murid ethics. So the Murid ethics counts a lot for their success. Scholars inside and outside the Murid community also agree that work ethics are at the center of Sheikh Ahmad Bamba's teachings, as to there should be no separation between worldly action in relations to afterlife, which is actually the vision of Islam, because the perfect Muslim doesn't have only worldly action. All worldly action should bear in them an afterlife consequence. So in one of the Sheikh's masterpiece writings called Matlab al-Fawzaini, where the Sheikh defines and praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an ideal Islamic society centering his holy city of Tuba, all his prayers show that worldly activities are to be done for Allah's sake only, while bearing on them the objective of ibadah and also taking account the hereafter. So the Sheikh's writings work is referred to in terms as Hamal, Kasb al-Halal, Khidmah. So this is, the news here is to tell the people that Sheikh Ahmad Bamba's mission was a mujaddid, to revive Islam, to work, live Islam in its plenty, in its entirety. But the success of that showed the success of economic behaviors of Murids, of their political influence in power, of their non-violence and others, even though it was not the primary purpose. But what I want to show here is that success and that ethical behavior in economy has its foundations in Islamic economy. So in other words, the Sheikh as a mujaddid would be presented here as somebody who understands Islam better than anybody else, but also who practiced and who gave it a community, a social signature. Where a lot of, like in Tasawwuf, where a lot of things were dedicated to elites, he made it a mass teaching, among the people. So Muridonomics mirror Islamic economics, which has a holistic approach, offering integral spiritual view based on teaching of the Quran and Sunnah, providing a better alternative philosophical framework for man's interaction with nature and his fellow. Okay, this is to explain that you have two things in Islam. You have the ibadat, which is the vertical approach, where man deals with God, and you have the horizontal, which deals with the relation of man to his other fellow man. I'm going to show you quickly. I'm not sure if you're seeing my slides, but this is the definition of Islam. In Islam, you have Aqidah, which is the dogma, the belief that Allah exists, the books, the angels and everything. But then you have the fiqh, which is called Islam, which is the law. I mean, like the civil law. And you have the akhlaq, which is tasawwuf, which is spiritual perfection. If you go into fiqh, you will find the ibadat, which is a vertical relation, and you go to muamalat, the horizontal relationship. The relationship between man and his fellow man, man and animals, man and nature, man and an environment. And that's where you find economics. So this is to say that now this is a quick about the difference between conventional economy and Islamic economics. Conventional economics takes its basis from reason, from empirical evidence, from experience. And even in conventional economics, I mean, you could trace, for example, if you do research, a lot of theories from John Maynard Keynes and a lot of Western liberal or Marxist economists or Malthusian economists, you could trace it to Ibn Khaldun, like 300 years before, who was a Muslim, who was a big Muslim scholar. So in conventional economics, the theoretical foundation man uses to address or solution a problem. Okay, sorry about that. Are based on modern scientific secular conception of the world, which is restricted in reason and sensible experience. It disregards Allah's lordship, sovereignty, power, and control with and will to the universe. Islamic economy, which has a holistic approach, which comes from Quran, Sunnah, and the other sources, the following sources, offering an integral spiritual view based on the teaching of the Quran and Sunnah, providing a better alternative and philosophical framework for man's interaction with nature. So in the Sheikh's teachings, spiritual motives driving economic behavior were the muamalats, which is a horizontal relation between man and his environment, have the same relevance as the ibadat in driving murid disciples to work ethics and excellence in succeeding economically. I think you read this in a lot of theories where they tell you that in murids, working is worshipping. And this is actually the way Islamic sees it. And this is interesting. So we don't have time to develop in the book. The economic foundations are what they call the Tahiti Paradigm. The Tahiti Paradigm is the oneness of God, which boils down to thinking that if you're a true Muslim, like you say your Shahada, everything you do, reflection you do, God's presence. And the other, I think Dr. Shahge mentioned that is the theory of Khilafah, which is man is a representative of God on earth and has the duty to develop the world in accordance with Allah's recommendation. So basically, the Muridonomics will show you that besides those foundation of Islamic economy, there's a lot of other virtues, which I will not have time to develop here, which is noble dignity of man, because man, according to the Quran, God has enthused so man should live at his highest level. You have the theory of ikhtiyar. God will not change the situation people they themselves try to change it. You have the equality of all creatures, all human beings beyond God, unless the one who worships better. You have the universal brotherhood of humans. It's like in the Quran it says that if you kill some people, it's like you killed the whole humanity. You have the trust and responsibility, which comes a lot in the Quran. You have the justice, which comes so many times in Islam, which are the basis of Islamic economy and finance. So beside the theory, the Sheikh practiced, I think compared to other Abdul Khadir Jilani, Sheikh Ahmad Tijani and others, the Sheikh was more successful in building his theory into practice. Even though his view was broader, because the Murids are not named after his name, but they any Muslim, anybody who tried to be a Muslim like the Sahabas is a Murid. So he put that in practice, and his first disciples are the examples of Imam Charno Ibrahim Afat, his lieutenant, who was at his time the most important farmer, who cultivated a surface of like 1,600 square kilometers, over 50 villages created. You know, you have Imam Shahanta, who was the most successful businessman in commerce. I think one time he became the richest in the French-dominated West Africa region. That was the time of the Sheikh Ahmad Bamba. You have Sheikh Mandombe, who was a big agriculture. You have Sheikh Ibrahim, who did great things in Khidmah. This is in the past. If you go to a more recent time, you could quote like Khalkom, Sheikh Salihu Mbacke, which is, I think, 45,000 square kilometers. Actually 45,000 hectares. I don't know how to say that in English. Which is terrific. And he started that at the age of 75, where he was Khalif of the Murids. So where, I mean, in terms of, if you look at in terms of having money or everything, he had everything else. But it's the philosophy behind building things. Now you could go to University of Touba, you could go to Al-Azhar universities, which started from 1 or 2 schools and now which has a university and high schools and a lot of centers. You could talk about a lot of things in the diaspora. You could talk about Murids building infrastructure. I think somebody mentioned it in the time of Shah Ahmad Mustafa, where they needed to build the railways to be able to bring the materials to make the mosque. You have more recently like Tuba Chakanam, which was like a, great initiative started by a grandson of Shah Ahmad Bamba, saying that every Murid can put $2 every month and we could do things for the city of Tuba, which is now building infrastructures, making a lot of stuff. And I think I was talking to the panel about new technologies and telling them you could perfect, because this is a great crowdfunding model, you could perfect and put appropriate platforms to make that happen. And also there's a lot of new projects on the table, like mosques, hospitals, education centers, and even like I'm approached many times, why shouldn't we set up an investment fund, a Murid investment fund, just dedicated for the big infrastructures? And also the major project actually right now is the Touba University, where I think would be a driver, for all the things happening. Okay, so I wanted to keep it short because I know he gave me 7 minutes. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.